Imagine a powerful leader trying to pull two rivals apart, only to, well, inadvertently push them into an even tighter embrace.
Yeah, it's quite the twist, isn't it?
It really is. And that's the surprising core of our deep dive today. We're sifting through our sources to understand how specific U.S. foreign policy decisions in 2025, particularly under a hypothetical second Donald Trump administration, seem to have led to this unprecedented convergence between Russia, China, and maybe even India.
Right. And our mission here is really to unpack the, let's say, strategic missteps and the economic drivers behind this whole global realignment.
Exactly. We want to help you understand the chain of events, the key players involved, and frankly, the unexpected consequences that have really reshaped international relations and, what it all means for global power dynamics.
Okay, so where do we start? The irony seems pretty thick here.
It really is. Let's unpack this. What our sources uncover is, well, truly ironic. You have a U.S. president whose stated goal was explicitly to prevent Russia and China from forming a strong bond.
A key foreign policy objective, you'd think.
Absolutely. But the reality we're seeing now, they look closer than ever, and
Yeah.
India, potentially, is getting drawn into that orbit too.
It's fascinating how quickly policy can have these feedback loops. We saw that social media post from Donald Trump, September 5th, 2025. Very telling.
What did it say again?
He expressed regret, basically saying, "It seems we lost India and Russia to China. I wish them a long and prosperous future together." Quite a statement.
Wow. And this came right after that Shanghai summit, right? Where Xi, Putin, and Modi all seemed surprisingly aligned.
Exactly. Now, alliance might still be too strong a word for their current ties, but the evidence we have confirms they've certainly never been closer than they are now.
And here's where it gets, well, really interesting according to our sources. It's not just about grand strategy failing. The material points to a, and I quote, personal, trivial problem between Trump and India's Modi.
A personal spat affecting alliances.
Apparently so. This issue seems to have fractured the, pretty deep-rooted U.S.-India relationship, pushing the Indians closer to their traditional rivals, the Chinese.
Think about that. A personal issue, potentially reshaping global power balances. It's quite something.
It really makes you think. So how did we actually get to this point? Let's trace it back. Early 2025 seems crucial.
Right. The start of the hypothetical second term.
Exactly. Barely 2 weeks into his return to the White House, Trump launches this trade war against China, a 10% tariff on all imported Chinese goods.
And the stated reason was?
The official line was about Beijing's alleged involvement in flooding the U.S. with fentanyl.
Okay. So what was the immediate fallout from those tariffs? How did China react?
Swiftly and impactfully, they didn't hesitate at all. Retaliatory tariffs hit a range of American products.
Including energy, I assume.
Definitely. Notably, a 15% tariff on U.S. liquefied natural gas LNG, plus oil, coal, and even agricultural machinery. That hit on February 10th, 2025.
So that effectively stopped Chinese imports of American gas. For how long?
Our sources say for about 7 months. U.S. LNG just became too expensive for them overnight.
Which is ironic, considering Trump's own push to expand U.S. natural gas exports, right?
Exactly. It completely boomeranged. The very policy meant to pressure China undercut a key U.S. industry. So China, as the world's biggest energy importer, had to turn somewhere else.
And this is where Russia comes back into the picture more strongly.
Precisely. China's reliance shifted further towards suppliers like Australia, Qatar, but critically, Russia.
And this connects back to Trump's earlier statements.
Directly. Remember that late October 2024 interview he did? He explicitly told Tucker Carlson, the only thing we don't want to happen is for Russia and China to unite. I'll have to break them up.
And I think I can do that. Yeah, I remember.
Well, his actions, perhaps inadvertently, seem to have done the exact opposite.
So by mid-April 2025, we see China signaling this shift.
Yes. China's ambassador to Russia, Zhang Hanhu, publicly stated China's willingness to increase Russian LNG imports. A very clear signal.
Okay, so the trade war inadvertently pushes China towards Russia for energy. What else is drawing them together?
This brings us to the big energy play. The Power of Siberia 2 pipeline.
Ah, yes, PS2. Russia had been pushing for that for years, hadn't they? But China was always a bit hesitant.
They were, mainly because they didn't want to become over-reliant on one supplier. Diversification was key for them. So what changed their mind?
Well, multiple factors seem to converge around that time.
Such as?
One critical event, according to the sources, was that brief but quite intense 12-day war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran in June 2025.
Right, that caused a lot of nervousness globally. How did it affect China's thinking on this pipeline?
China watched that very closely with deep concern. They rely heavily on LNG imports coming through the Strait of Hormuz, something like 30% of their LNG from places like Qatar and the UAE.
A major choke point.
Exactly. And the fear was, what if Iran, in a wider conflict, decided to close the strait?
That would be catastrophic for their energy security and their economy.
Absolutely. So, securing reliable overland gas supplies from Russia suddenly looked a whole lot more attractive, a lot less risky.
Makes sense. But you said multiple factors. What else?
The other crucial piece, really, was the significant shift in the U.S. administration itself.
How so?
Well, under the previous administration, Biden, or Harris China, was very cautious about deepening ties with Russia. Remember the strong U.S. and European sanctions after the Ukraine invasion?
Of course. Isolating Russia financially was a major goal.
Right. Biden led that effort. But with Trump, the whole equation changed dramatically.
Because of his different stance on Russia and Ukraine.
From day one, yeah. A much more, let's say, pro-Russia, anti-Ukraine stance. He halted aid to Ukraine, held back on imposing new sanctions on Russia.
Which effectively removed a major deterrent for China cooperating more closely with Moscow.
Precisely. It cleared the strategic path, you could say.
And then came that Alaska summit in mid-August 2025. Trump hosting Putin, rolling out the red carpet. What was the aim there? A peace deal?
That was the stated hope, yes. Brokering a Ukraine peace deal. But what's fascinating is how Putin, according to our sources, really seemed to leverage Trump's personality.
How do you mean? Leverage his personality?
Well, the sources suggest Putin played on Trump's desire for a big, visible win, maybe his lack of a deep, consistent strategy.
Oh.
The summit lasted 3 hours.
And the result? Any ceasefire? Any deal?
Nothing. No agreement on a ceasefire, no movement on any Western demands. But Putin walked away with a huge diplomatic victory.
How so, if nothing was agreed?
He effectively broke Russia's international isolation, at least in terms of direct engagement with the U.S. president, without giving up anything substantial.
And Trump?
Reportedly left happy. Just having the meeting, the photo op, was seen as a win for him personally. He even seemed to adopt Putin's framing of a peace deal involving Ukraine ceding territory.
So Putin gets legitimacy without concessions, and Trump gets a photo op. What message did that send to China?
It further emboldened them, surely. It signaled that the U.S., under this administration, was unlikely to impose serious consequences for deepening ties with Russia. The risk calculation changed for Beijing.
And the results followed quickly.
Almost immediately. Late August, China received its first LNG shipment from Russia's Arctic LNG 2 project.
The one sanctioned by the previous administration?
The very same. Sanctioned since September 2023 under Biden. Receiving that shipment was a clear signal. China was now willing to ignore those Western calls to limit its partnership with Russia.
And then, just days later.
September 2nd, 2025, during that Shanghai summit we mentioned earlier, Russia's Gazprom and China's CNPC, the China National Petroleum Corporation, signed the Memorandum of Understanding for Power of Siberia 2.
The MOU. So the pipeline deal moved forward.
And the connecting Suez-Vostok pipeline through Mongolia too. A major step.
Okay, let's dive into the specifics of this pipeline then. What exactly is Power of Siberia 2, and why is it such a big deal for both countries?
Well, think of it as a massive energy artery. It's designed to transport 50 billion cubic meters, that's BCM of Russian natural gas every year.
50 BCM, that's a huge amount. Where's the gas coming from?
From fields in West Siberia, specifically Bovadenkovo and Karasavy on the Yamal Peninsula. Fields that used to primarily supply Europe.
Ah, so it reroutes gas that can no longer go west.
Exactly. The gas travels south to the Russian-Mongolian border, then through Mongolia via the Suez-Vostok pipeline, and finally crosses into China. For China, it's a massive, reliable boost to their energy security. Overland, remember, less vulnerable.
And for Russia, it's a lifeline, wouldn't you say, especially with their European market collapsing?
Absolutely crucial. You look at the numbers, European imports of Russian gas were around 157 BCM back in 2021.
And now?
Projections for 2025 are maybe 39 BCM, perhaps even less. And the EU wants to stop all purchases by 2027.
So PS2 offers Russia a desperately needed alternative market for all that West Siberian gas.
A vital alternative. But it's not just about the volume for China. It's also very much about the price.
Ah, the price. Our sources hinted China is driving a hard bargain here, exploiting Russia's weak position. How low are we talking?
Well, China's reportedly pushing for prices close to Russia's own heavily subsidized domestic rate.
Seriously, how much is that?
Around $60 per 1,000 cubic meters. Maybe even less.
$60. compared to what they were getting from Europe.
Europe was paying even recently around 350 per 1,000 cubic meters. Maybe a bit less for other Asian customers, but nowhere near 60.
That's incredibly low, rock bottom.
It is. The final price will likely land somewhere between that domestic price and the already quite low price China got for the first Power Siberia pipeline back in 2014.
When Russia was also weakened by sanctions after annexing Crimea.
Precisely. History repeating itself in a way. China clearly holds the stronger hand here. Russia needs new markets urgently.
Yep.
China has other options, even if PS2 is attractive.
So it looks like a huge strategic win for China. Guaranteed supply, bypasses those risky sea lanes, and potentially at an incredibly cheap price. What does this do to the wider global gas market, especially LNG?
Oh, this project will undoubtedly shake up the global LNG market massively.
So,
Think about it. China is the world's largest energy importer. If they suddenly start getting 50 BCM of gas piped directly from Russia each year.
they won't need to buy as much LNG from the global spot market.
Exactly. That significant reduction in demand from the biggest buyer is bound to affect global LNG prices, trade flows, future investment decisions in LNG terminals, everything. It could reshape the market for years.
But despite this this agreement, our sources say it's still an incomplete achievement. What's still up in the air?
Yes, the MOU signed in September was quite general. It set the intention, but key details are still being hammered out.
Like the final price.
Like the final pricing mechanism, yes.
Yeah.
Also, how the massive construction cost, estimated around $25 billion, will be financed, who pays for what, and definitive timelines for construction and first gas.
So still some significant hurdles.
Significant negotiation points, certainly. And our sources suggest China's leader, Xi Jinping, is still playing a long game. Even with the current warmth in the relationship, he remains cautious about becoming too dependent on Russia.
Pragmatism over pure friendship, perhaps.
It seems that way. It's a strategic partnership driven by mutual interests, and right now, by perceived U.S. policy shifts, but not necessarily an unconditional alliance.
It really is such a complex web, isn't it? You have a president's stated ambition to divide two rivals.
Which inadvertently seems to foster closer ties between them.
Right. And all of this fundamentally impacts global energy markets and potentially reshapes alliances.
And if we connect it all back, zooming out again, our sources suggest that in less than, 8 months of this hypothetical term, Trump's policies have led to something described as strategic bankruptcy for the U.S.
Strategic bankruptcy. That sounds serious.
It implies a major erosion of trust among allies, friends, nations that have long counted on American predictability and leadership. You see Putin observing Trump, seeing him as perhaps unreliable, inconsistent, lacking a clear strategy.
And naturally leaning towards a partner like Xi Jinping, who seems more consistent, more strategic in his approach.
It's a logical conclusion for Putin, wouldn't you say? It reflects a potential fundamental shift in how major powers perceive U.S. reliability and calculate their own interests.
Which really leaves us, and you, our listener, with a provocative question to ponder after this deep dive. We've seen how, according to these sources, in less than 8 months, this hypothetical term caused significant damage to America's network of alliances. The question is, do you believe any future U.S. president can truly repair this damage? Or has the world's trust in the United States been fundamentally, perhaps permanently, broken?
It's a heavy question.
It is, and definitely a thought-provoking challenge for all of us to consider in this rapidly shifting global landscape we find ourselves in.